Welcome, Carm Capriato, the Service Aftermarkets podcast pioneer with the gold standard of aftermarket business podcasts. Join me for Aftermarket Insights as we advance the aftermarket. And as always, know that you'll learn just one thing. Find us on your favorite podcast listening app and remarkableresults.biz or on my YouTube channel. Hey, everybody, Carm Capriato, Remarkable Results Radio. Good to have you here. So appreciate it as we work so hard with great content, great guests, good topics, insightful as we advance the aftermarket. You know, we're going to be at ASTA this year down in Raleigh, North Carolina. Great event, AstaExpo.com. Sponsored by NAPA Tracks. We're excited to be there, Tracy and I. Tracy is teaching a course with Sarah Fraser, and I'm going to do a networking event while I'm down there. So good to have you here. I am with Craig Noel from Sun Automotive, Springfield, Oregon. 4 locations. Do you have time for a 5th?
It's opening January 1. That trigger got pulled a year ago, so I don't have a choice.
Oh, baby. All right. Listen, we're here for a lot of great reasons. First of all, to celebrate that you're with us. That may give somebody a hint as to what the heck we're going to talk about.
Yep.
We're talking about a very close to death experience that you lived through for all the right reasons. God was with you somehow. Before we even turned on the mic, Craig was giving me a highlight of what really happened. And I was not sympathizing, but empathizing with him because something very similar happened to me. I rarely ever talk about it. But one thing, Craig, that happened to me was I became very much more emotional in life events. And in fact, I could probably cry at a comedy chick flick just because of that almost near-death experience that we're here to share. And not only does Craig want to share that with you about the warning signs, but he also has a great message about, so what happens if you do get hit by the bus, right?
Mm-hmm. That's right.
All right. So you were out having fun. You came home and you didn't feel good, right?
Didn't feel good. I mean, I'll condense the story, but I thought I was basically getting the fall crud. It was almost a year ago, September. Thought I was getting, like a walking pneumonia thing. Nothing was clearing. Long story short, from a Thursday to a Sunday, I couldn't stand up and I couldn't get enough oxygen. So my past, which is fairly in depth with understanding pneumonia, my son passed away in 2007. So I was very familiar with oxygen saturations and the whole thing. So I knew Sunday night, I'm like, this is not good. So off we go. And after multiple tests and everything, 8 hours, they finally did a CAT scan and I had 6 massive blood clots on the top part of my lungs. Understanding I had no other underlying health issues at all. None. I'm a little thick, but I had 0 issues. Anyway, at any rate, they whisked me in. There was a procedure because the clots were at the top part of my lungs and I was awake during it. They retrieved all 6, and it was through the process of the specialist that it dawned on me why I should not be here, which is those clots had to pass through my left part of my heart and then go into my lungs, and they all shouldn't because they were, 2 inches long and looked like dead worms.
The only way they got into the top part of your lung was they had to go through your heart.
Correct. Yeah. The blood returns to your heart through the left side, goes into your lungs, and then your right side of your heart pulls it out and pushes it back through your arteries. So the veins return it. There were clots that came from my left leg. We don't know why. It was rather interesting. So
how would they know that it came from your left leg, Craig?
Finally, after the procedure, they did massive ultrasounds on both my legs. The assumption is that your veins are like funnels. So the farther away from the heart, the smaller they are, and then the bigger they get towards the heart. So when the clots dislodge, they just shoot right. They get a free pass. So they're off they go. So they did all of that and determined that there was some smaller clotting of some small veins. And here's the weird part, because typically when you have that many or that massive of a blood clot situation, you have swelling of the calf, ankles, and you have symptoms. I had 0. Yeah, the left part of my inner calf hurt a little bit, but I was hiking down at 8,800 feet in Utah, so I'm not really too concerned about that. I will say this. So putting it all together with my specialist, we think it was induced potentially. I was spending hours and hours on the floor doing my hardwood floors of my house. I have a huge high pain tolerance, just kept on there for hours and bent knees. And that's the only thing we can come up with, aside from a lot of talk about what potential vaccines I had, which was interesting. But nonetheless, yeah, that's what happened.
Overworked, huh? Isn't that what we do? All of us?
A little bit. And that's part of the reason why I contacted you, because, all of us are in our positions, most likely are 150 miles an hour asleep. I have to tell you that between experiencing what I did with my son, and then in 2020, Marcy, my wife, married 36 years, she got COVID. She was a long hauler. So she was within about 6 to 12 hours of going on a ventilator. It was very, very scary. So but now when it happened to me, I'm like, enough's enough. The clock is ticking, and it got me thinking about a lot. You talk about emotional things, you talk about how you really take life differently. And again, to all the things I contacted you about, I think it's an interesting reflection point for me to be able to get out to other people to really think about life.
Yeah, mine was heart, and I don't want to go too deep in the story because this episode is about you, and maybe one day I need to tell that story as to how lucky I was. I have to tell you, we both got our second chances, and mine was 12 years ago, and yours was just recently.
Hmm.
Congrats on your 36 years.
Yep. Yep. It's a big deal. Big deal.
Yeah, I bet you it is. Every day is a big deal, frankly. The older we seem to get and the harder we seem to damn work, Craig.
A little
It's-
bit, yeah, a little bit. And some of it was exactly that. It was, as I said, right? We're all 150 miles an hour. And I'm sure we all have a degree of suffering that the family has gone through relative to our dedication to our jobs. And I have to tell you, it's been a 360-degree turnaround in regards to what my perspective on spending time with a lot of important people in my life, not only my wife, but it's been an eye opening experience. I'll tell you that.
Well, I just want to, I keep thinking about this healthcare that I've had. We're telling your story today, and we've had other people on telling their story. If anyone wants to hear mine, I just drop me a line, carm@remarkableresults.biz, and I may just think about doing it because I think when we tell stories like this, I'm hoping, Craig, that it resonates deeply inside our listener. And listen, I'm guilty for not doing some of the things, Craig, that you're saying. Carm, what if you knew in 364 days
Hmm.
you were a goner? What kind of planning would you be doing? And frankly, I've got plans, but I haven't signed the right documents. I haven't made the right moves yet. And every day I get up and I think about it, things get in the way. So maybe this discussion with you may get me to do the things that I need to do, Craig, like so many others need to do.
Yeah, and I think the biggest one is, I think that for so many of us, especially driven people, we always take this assumption and say, I got time. I got time. I'll get to it. I got time. Right. And if somebody did say, you've got 364 days left, like what would you do differently? And that's the best way to describe how I'm feeling right now, because you have a year, you do have a little bit of time, but what are those things that you start to change? It's everything from thinking about spending more time with your wonderful wife, to how you communicate with people, how you intentionally, this is a big one, how you intentionally call your friends to tell them how you feel, just because that's what you want to do. It has nothing to do with, hey, what's the latest book you read? Talk about business and say, hey, good talking to you, buddy. It's intentionally calling people, and I've done it now for the last 8 months, 6 months, and just letting them know, hey, I appreciate you, and I hope you have a great day. That's it. Would you do that? What things would you do differently, right?
How powerful.
Yeah.
Just last week, Craig, a friend, I called him a really good friend from my early days, just as Ann and I were getting married. He was in college with me, and we were both on the college radio station together. And out of the clear blue, I get an email from him last Monday. He's coming back to Buffalo, where he lived with his wife, went to Phoenix, brought his two grandsons to see Niagara Falls, and he did just what you said. He reached out to me, and we had dinner 2 days later here in the Buff. And that really opened my eye to the fact that I would have never thought of Kurt had he not contacted me. How crazy of me not to think that. But he had an old email of mine that worked. I'm getting in that mood and in that moment. And I don't think you need to get older, Craig, in order to be thinking and doing this stuff. Because think of the people that you have been friends, business with, the coaches that you've had, the people who worked for you. It's almost getting, I don't want to use the word sentimental, but almost valued.
Yes, I intentionally have called many people who have impacted my life. I called, we're friends to this day, but I intentionally called many people that were influential in my life and impacted me, to let them know that they did, because I think that we're so used to just hearing the bad stuff, the negative stuff, that people don't hear that they really affected somebody's life, right? So one of the things that I'm intentional about is I'm very determined to change the trajectory of all my employees' lives as best as I can. And so I called those people that affected my trajectory, and I personally have called them over the last 6 months just to let them know. So all of these things that kind of make you ask these questions about how much is enough? How many stores is enough? How many cars is enough? How many houses are enough? I'm not kidding around. It's like, at what point do you need, when does the bucket get full and the emotional bucket then get filled, right? That's what I've been going through the last 8 months. A drastic difference. Minimalizing some things. Stuff's not important. People are important. Relationships are important. Yeah. Accelerated the remote work situation. It's good.
So having big, thick, juicy ribeyes is not on your list in 364 days.
Really? Well, not as much because I'm down about 50 pounds,
Good for
but
you.
I watch it's really the carbs and the sugars, and just get out and walk. Just walk.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
walk. It doesn't take a lot.
It's the older you get, bud, you know that, the harder it is to get it off. And I do the treadmill every single day, and Andy and I do walk a lot
Yep.
when we have a chance. But yeah, you know, we could hear these great wise words, this great wisdom from me and you, and tomorrow they'll do this. I'm not bitching, but we'll keep doing the same thing. It almost has to hit home in
It
order for
does.
people to go out and say, yeah,
It
yeah,
does.
I heard Craig's episode with Carm and it was impactful and well, I was in the moment and right then and there I knew I was going to change, and 3 days later I didn't do anything.
I liken it, interestingly enough, applying to my own branding strategy, which I pierce the white noise with the sincerity arrow, right? All of this stuff, we are inundated with information. So let me fast forward to a suggestion, which I bet would be fascinating for everybody to try. As simple as this: if you want to go out to dinner with your family, before you leave the house, leave the phones at home. Don't turn them off or set them up. No, leave them at home. Like even the car ride to the restaurant, right? If you need to, tell your neighbor, or your sister, or your brother-in-law, hey, we're going out to dinner at Outback. Okay, if the house burns, that's where you call. But I bet you're not going to worry about it. And the freeing of that in many different ways is astounding. It just really is.
I every time the family comes over, I want to put a basket at the door and say, put your cell phone in there. I do.
What's wrong with it? What's wrong with it?
I do. And you are 100% right. How did we exist? How did we live without the phone? Because I recall going out with Ann for dinner and for friends in the early days before the that black box we carry.
Here's speed dial.
Yeah,
Pencil. That was speed dial. We
yeah.
we made it.
That's right. Yeah, we did. But we happen to have a gene that's not a gene. We happen to have something in us that says, I have to be in touch with the world 24/7. And so, I mean, golly, we went to the county fair with the family last night, and Tracy was going to meet us there. And how did we all end up being at the animal section of the county fair where the grandkids wanted to see the animals?
Yep.
It took the cell phone to get us all in the same place because we all came in from different directions. And so that was critical to have there. But while we're there, beep, bing, ring, certain tones, Facebook, and all that stuff's going on, and we find ourselves doing the wrong thing
Hmm. Yep. It's true.
because we feel we have to be connected 7/24. I guess we've got to find our own personal disciplines. Have
if
you?
you if you take my advice with regards to thinking about what that 364 days looks like,
Yeah.
you get, I think, reasonable perspective about how you can really conduct yourself with relationships and your family. Because it's not like, I don't want to tell people, well, what are you going to do if you die tomorrow? That's not real reasonable in regards to the focus. But if you really knew that it was like a year, right? Oh my gosh, you know what? I really want to take that. I want to go to that trip this year. And the intentional thought of it encourages you to plan it. You know what? I really want to go see the grandkids. Let's do it in October. I don't want to wait till June. Things like that. It just moves some things up the list. I think that's actually more important to our lives versus, I'll get to it. And that's the thing. I have to tell you, that's the thing. The relationship part of this, the people part of this, people who have influenced your life, man, you got it will make you feel so wonderful to be able to make sure you let them know before you leave this earth how important they are and spend
Yeah.
time with the ones that are important.
Yeah, very, very powerful words. Thank you. The Napa Now event is a national ownership workshop for our valued AutoCare members centered around business building training from industry leaders. Now, it's not just about owning a shop, it's about owning your future. Join Napa April 15th through the 17th, 2025 at the Venetian Resort in the heart of Las Vegas, known for its vibrancy, energy, and entrepreneurial spirit. At the event, ignite growth through business building master classes from leaders across multiple industries focused on expanding business opportunities. Now, master class topics include future proofing your business, mastering emerging technologies for growth, leadership dynamics, inspiring, engaging, and driving success, shifting tides, understanding evolving consumer behaviors and your bottom line, and young leaders' lasting legacies, mastering succession planning for future growth. Foster collaboration with other like-minded Napa AutoCare members and store owners. Stop at supplier studios for training, visit AutoCare vendor partners, and finally, join us in celebrating 100 years of Napa Auto Parts, along with kicking off the next 100 years of partnership. There will also be exclusive giveaways. There are many incentive opportunities to offset the cost of this trip, including AutoCare program earnbacks, and beginning in October, earn up to $1,500 with pre-show supplier training to prepare for the supplier studio training sessions. The Napa Now event is a national ownership workshop for our valued AutoCare members centered around business building training from industry leaders. Now, it's not just about owning a shop, it's about owning your future. Join Napa April 15th through the 17th, 2025 at the Venetian Resort in the heart of Las Vegas, known for its vibrancy, energy, and entrepreneurial spirit. Get ready to grow, connect, and celebrate. This is an exclusive event limited to the first 2,000 AutoCare members. Packages are going fast. If you're interested in attending, contact your servicing Napa store or Napa salesperson. You've got
Yep.
a big business, great people. I just want to brainstorm with you, and not maybe particularly, Craig, about your business, but as we talk to the audience in general, we talk to an individual who owns a business, sit down with your people and say, what if I get hit by a bus tomorrow? Any idea how you think the business would continue? It has nothing to do with wills. It has nothing to do with the wife, the significant other, the family.
Correct.
It's
Yep.
how do we keep this going? And they may say, well, Craig, how do you want it to work? No, my point is that what do you think we can do as a team without me? Is there any value in that kind of discussion, even though it doesn't end up being a permanent thing? But at least the discussion starts to happen.
Absolutely. And I'll tell you the one that first started with me. The first one was I already had a general manager in place. And the first thing that I did was is that I've got to be able to make sure. So Richard Flint, motivational speaker years and years ago,
I
said
remember.
something
Oh, yeah.
years ago, said something very, very, it stuck with me forever. He said, make your presence present when you're not present. Oh, okay. So the test was, I'm going to see if I'm personally missed. I just got done taking a 2 month swath of time, May through June. When I was gone, I wanted to see if everybody responded to my GM the way I would want to be responded to. And every single one of them, no, the culture stayed the same. The trajectory, the point, the focus on core values and mission statement stayed the same. They did not miss me. And that was the point. I was personally scared. I'm like, I have to be there. I have to be there. Guess what? If you do your job right and you coach and inspire and your culture is there, guess what? They're all going to do what they know is important to the living, breathing thing hanging on the wall. And if you
Yeah.
preach that all the time, you'll be amazed at what they actually can do without you. And it was an eye opener for me, a welcomed eye opener, because I was really kind of looking to see what 50-50 remote ownership would kind of look like right down in Arizona. It's beyond that now. I'm triggered 90%, right? Doing what I need to with the media. Anyway, I got back and it was wonderful. They all said, no, he's doing a wonderful job. Rest assured, good hands. And we're talking newer employees versus ones that have been with me 10 years.
You're still coaching, right?
A little bit, yes.
Oh, okay. I think of people that you know and people that are listening here that just say, I can't. I just can't. I get it. I've got to make every decision on the diag. I have to make, I've got to listen in on my counter. I got to talk to my customers. I got to pay the bills. There's the grind, the spinning tornado that exists in so many of the way we
Yep,
lead our companies. The I can't thing is, in my mind, the critical flaw in a design that says you need to figure out how to relieve some of your responsibilities.
absolutely. Absolutely. And sometimes it's as simple as some processes that'll be a little bit different with your bookkeeper.
Yeah,
Sometimes it's a little different in regards to what the expectation is and the accountability is with your GM to others versus you and others. You can go on. That's a whole episode about making sure things are in place so you don't have to be in place.
better SOPs.
That's right. Yep. We just got done overhauling all of them, 100, 200 and some odd on way we do. So absolutely, right? Absolutely. They need to know what's expected and accountability. That's the other thing. I mean, the accountability side of it had to be looked at in regards to it's what's verbally discussed versus what's really hardcore sit down. And we're going to have a heart to heart about what the expectation is. We came up with what's called employee diaries. And I think that's fascinating because what will end up happening, and I guarantee you, most people listening to this episode, when they do, is you have these discussions, and then 3 discussions later, during the same repetitive topic, the employee says, well, we never talked about that. Well, it's fascinating what the diary actually does. It's not a way to write somebody up, it's a way to just document when these conversations happen. And just that accountability alone has been fascinating to be able to hold people accountable. Oh, yeah, now I remember that. And you don't have to remember it, which is great.
Right. You just mentioned Way We Do. Is that an app?
Way We Do is something that Jeff Odom used to be part of Pro Servers. Very, very good friend of mine right now. He is the one that heads up Way We Do. Way We Do is a software that allows you to do everything from SOP to employee manuals, onboarding. You can do all of your links to videos to, I mean, it's incredible the amount of heavy lifting that can do for you. Yeah. Way We Do.
If anyone wants to get it, it's waywedo.com, I'm sure.
Waywedo.com. Yeah.
Cool.
Yep.
We hear about Trainual, which is another, people are using Google Docs. There's a lot of places to store this information that it becomes alive and a living document that people can access all the time.
Yes, the benefit of Jeff Odom is he has since sold his business, and this is what he does in his spare time. What's fascinating is he only works with repair shops. Way We Do does multiple platforms of this software application, but Jeff Odom is targeting automotive only. So let me give you an example.
Yeah.
If you wanted to work with Jeff Odom on Way We Do to get your SOPs in there, he says, "Hey, look, I've got 2 other owners that are real similar to your 4-star setup. Let me go ahead and plug away all the basic platforms and what they've put into place. And basically, you use it and you can make it your own. You can edit it. It's amazing the access to material that everybody has
Wow.
said. Me too. I've said, hey, anything, Jeff, use it for somebody else. Absolutely. It is a don't feel daunted about saying I have to come up with 250 processes.
Yeah.
Very
I
helpful.
I think caveat emptor, buyer beware, is that if you take something and you don't modify it or make it your own, then they're never going to bring any value to you because they'll be broken because it's not how you do things. Everybody,
Yeah.
it's my old secret sauce story. I don't want to share my secret sauce. I'm sorry. I'm not going to go to a networking group. I'm not going to get into coaching because it's my secret sauce. Well, your secret sauce is you can't pay your bills, you can't meet payroll, you can't hire good people. That if anyone shares a fabulous idea or an insight freely and someone takes it, Craig,
Best form of
and then
flattery.
and number one is flattering, but number two, it's a different market, it's a
Yeah.
different people's, it's a different building, it's a different culture. So when you bring that and it becomes part of you, it doesn't look a whole hell of a lot like the idea that left
Yeah.
someone's shop, and you end up owning it because you make it yours.
You get a template that's just
Yeah.
wonderful to work with.
Yeah, so it's one of the warning signs I think of stealing other people's ideas is you need to say, well, that's a great idea. Can we do that? And then you sit down with your people and says, hey, listen, we got these new SOPs and there's some really good things in here, but team, let's modify this. Let's do that. Can we do these things? And if we can, then we've just discovered a great way to be better at everything we do.
Correct. And believe it or not, when all those systems are refined, it does make your life much more efficient. It puts things in perspective.
All right, let's go back to what happens next.
Yeah.
In 2021, April of
Mhm.
2021, I interviewed Seth Thorson.
Hmm.
And to tell everybody, it's episode 635 on my website. Just go to remarkableresults.biz, type in 635. Of course, listen to this thing. You're going to know about that because you listened to this episode with Craig. And Seth had a green, yellow, red envelope thing. And the green was basically, hey, look, I just got in a car accident. I'm probably going to be laid up for 2 or 3 days. Open the green envelope. Here's what you got to do. Oh, by the way, I'm going to be out for 6 months. It's the yellow envelope. Here's what you do. And it may include passwords, it may include a lot of stuff, banking, relationships, strategies. And then the red, of course, as you can appreciate, goes to the wife or the significant other.
Hmm.
And ultimately, the successor to this individual is basically given the instructions as to what to do, and hopefully they're prepared, and they may have an idea of what's in the red envelope. But again, it's another part of what you're talking about, Craig, and you're thinking about, is that there needs to be a plan.
Absolutely. Down to if you both go, because now you're spending more time together on a plane because you're traveling.
Yeah.
Now, what happens if you both go, right? Absolutely. Absolutely. And be prepared. You'd be amazed what your team can probably take care of and run with. At the end of the day, the business is its own living, breathing thing, right? We don't want it to die, right? Because we're serving the community, we're helping the industry, we're improving the industry. We don't want that to go down. So, yeah, absolutely.
Did you change your will?
Luckily, through my education with wonderful pro service, I've been well prepared. However, I will say this: thinking about everything down to if I can't do X, Y, and Z, who's going to do that? Thinking about a lot of the details. I
Mm-hmm.
did update that. We
Yeah.
updated our trust for sure. Made sure that there were plans in place in case even something happened with my daughter, who's second in line. Right? It's even like a brother-in-law. And then what happens with all the mechanical stuff? Who's going to step in regards to understanding all that stuff? The cars, the whatever. Yeah, there's lots of things to think about, right? Investment properties and who to go to. So it's really updating all that detail stuff, right? The attorney's not going to know unless you tell him to know.
Yeah. Is the attorney the only or the best individual that you need, or would a good confidant like a consultant, a business coach, financial advisor, what do you recommend?
Almost all the above. So think about it this way. Henry Ford put it best, right? He had two of everything, right? He just always wanted to make sure his rear end was covered. So not only does my attorney know my CPA knows my attorney, everybody involved from there down understands the process, similar to a green, yellow, red, right?
Yeah.
On the
Yeah.
envelope. Then each one of those two individuals has a thumb drive with all key componentry, contact people on it. Everybody down below on that chain has that same, although modified, let's call it a yellow thumb drive in case something were to take place. So it's more about focusing on the details and answering the what ifs. That's the thing. We always think about, well, gosh, I'm going to have a heart attack in another 10 years. I got 10 years. No, think about it sooner than that, right? 364 days. What would you prep for?
Okay. I'm loving this. And we haven't done an episode like this in a few years. And so I'm thinking deeply about if we can bring one person over the ledge based on our discussion, we did something good. I wish we could bring hundreds of people over the edge because they listened to this. And I'm trying to think in the back of my mind how we could make this really sticky.
Let me give you a point of view that might help out.
Go ahead.
So I think a lot of us who are driven 150 miles an hour sleep, right? At least with me, I can't speak for others, but there is a degree of me that always felt like he had to prove something, right? Whether it's the dad that said no all the time, right? Just what your upbringing, whatever it may be. I learned through this last 6 months that I've done well. I don't have to prove anything anymore.
Hmm.
And everybody else around me says, why don't you just go enjoy life, right? You hear people say that, but when they mean it genuinely, it's rather humbling. And through this process, I've answered two questions. One, I don't have to prove anything anymore. And two, I have enough. And that's where I challenge everybody. Get to a point where you don't have to prove anything anymore, right? And get yourself in position to enjoy what you have worked hard for. Don't let the time what you do have, which you do have left, fall too short.
Yeah. Great advice. Here's my angle.
What's your angle?
My angle is if you're listening to this and it really has impacted you, get someone else that's very close to you to listen to this, like a significant other, like a very close peer friend, even a GM of the business, your best friend, and get someone to hold you accountable. Now, if you are going to have your significant other listen to this, there's a caveat, in my opinion, and that is, honey, please don't judge. Don't judge the fact. Did you see those commercials out there where the people don't have life insurance and the wife scolds the husband because he didn't get insurance for her? We don't need that. We just need, you know what, makes all kinds of sense. Let's work on this. And I think if you listen to it yourself, you may be impacted and you may want to do something. But because we're so driven at that 150 miles an hour, we probably need someone to come up here and be a bookend in this decision.
That person is very important. That happened with me with 3 individuals. And that's what actually got me thinking about the 364 days.
Yeah.
Because the conversation opens up to really those things that need to be focused on. And it allows your mind to say, well, okay, if I did have that much time, I think this is how I would look at it versus, well, gosh, if I, bit the big one tomorrow, the perspective's different. So that's where I came up with that.
Okay. I've got some signatures I got to put on some documents soon. And when I do, I'm going to think of you.
Good.
I think that's a good takeaway. I'm doing the Craig Noel thing.
That's it. And, ask yourself, in my particular case, right, how can I continue to change the trajectory of my employees' lives, right? So there are some things in motion, right? I'll keep that private, but there are things in motion to make sure that they're successful as a group.
Good for you. It reminds me of an episode we recently did with good old John Gustafson, who's succeeding his business to his people. He's got no family. And we discussed how he was doing it through implementing EOS and all that other really cool stuff and where all this succession fits in with him and his wife and how it all works. But you know what? We can't talk about this enough because you hear the statistics about how many boomers are out there that don't know what's next. They want to sell, they want to quit, they want to do something, and they believe they've got all kinds of value, but they don't know what to do with it. And then yet there's this story of 365 days. Who knows? It could be tomorrow. Boy, final words for our audience. This was just an eye-opener.
I will do what I have stated that I have done, and I will do it with you, young man. I can't tell you enough. We have both spent time in Persian. We have tooled around at a dinner table while we were watching the water go by. And I just wanted to let you know that your genuineness and your thoughtfulness, your intentions with the industry are much appreciated by me. And I can't say enough about just, again, your impact to the industry, but I'll remember that furry face forever.
For a lot of people, Craig, it's really tough for them to do. I think somewhere along the line, it's got to come from deep inside, and there needs to be a motivation to want to get there. You had one, I had one, but we got to figure out how to overcome the pure emotion of it. It's almost like, for me, I'd have to probably practice it a few times so that I wouldn't get.
Remember 7th grade when you weren't the first guy that went out there to dance, but once there was 2, you're like, I feel better. Who cares? Start dancing in life.
Oh my God.
Start dancing in life.
Dance as if no one was watching.
That's right.
Remember that quote? Great quote.
That's right.
Oh my God. Craig Noel, thank you for your friendship. I wish you all kinds of success. Thank you for this great advice. Sun Automotive, Springville, Oregon, 4 locations. And when he decides, the 5th will open hopefully in January. Thanks, my friend. Appreciate all this great stuff.
Much appreciated.